You have studied the market. You have watched hundreds of hours of content. You have practiced on demo. You know what a good setup looks like. And yet, something keeps stopping you. Not the market, not your broker, not your strategy. Something inside you. There is a wall between where you are right now and where you want to be as a trader. And that wall is not made of charts or indicators. It is made entirely of your own thinking. Today, I am going to show you exactly what that wall is made of and exactly how to tear it down. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through 3 specific mental barriers that are silently blocking most traders from their potential. These are not motivational concepts. These are real, identifiable psychological patterns with real trader stories and a specific solution for each one. By the end of this video, you will understand why you keep making the same mistakes even when you know better. You will understand why success in trading feels so close and yet keeps slipping away. And you will have a clear, practical path to finally break through. This is the conversation most trading channels are afraid to have. Let's have it. The fear of being wrong. How it paralyzes good traders. Let me tell you about Mary. Mary has been trading for 11 months. She is careful, analytical. She builds her setup slowly and methodically. She does not jump into trades. She studies. She plans. On paper, she should be doing well. But there's a problem. When her setup appears, she hesitates. She opens the chart. She sees the signal. Everything lines up. Her criteria are met. And then she just sits there. She refreshes the chart. She checks the higher time frame again. She reads one more article about the pair. She waits for more confirmation. The market moves without her. She watches the trade she planned go exactly where she predicted, without her in it. And instead of feeling relief, she feels frustration. She feels cheated. She missed the trade she spent an hour analyzing. Why didn't she take it? Because she was afraid of being wrong. And here's what's strange about that. She wasn't afraid of losing money. She was afraid of being wrong. Of being the person who misread the market. Of looking foolish, even to herself. And on the days when she does manage to enter, she watches the trade so closely that every small move against her sends her heart racing. The moment the trade dips into the red for even a few minutes, she closes it. She exits before her stop loss. She gives back a small loss when her original plan would have produced a profit. Her results after 11 months, she is profitable on her analysis. Her setups work about 60% of the time when she evaluates them after the fact. But her actual trading account is slightly negative because she misses the setups she planned or exits them too early out of anxiety. Her mind is costing her money that her analysis already earned. Do you recognize this? Do you sometimes know exactly what to do and then not do it? That gap between knowing and doing is one of the most painful and confusing experiences in trading. And it has a very specific psychological cause. Why it happens? The fear of being wrong in trading comes from a deep psychological belief that your losses reflect your intelligence, your worth, your capability as a person. When you lose a trade, your brain does not say, "That was an imperfect outcome within a probabilistic system." Your brain says, "You were wrong. You failed. You are not good enough." And to protect yourself from that feeling, your brain finds a clever strategy: hesitation. If you never fully commit to the trade, you can never fully fail. You can always say, "I wasn't really in it. I was still deciding." The hesitation is a shield that your mind builds to protect your ego, but that shield is also blocking every winning trade from reaching your account. There's also something called anticipatory anxiety. Your brain predicts pain before it happens. The moment you see a setup forming, your brain immediately starts simulating scenarios where it goes wrong, where you lose, where you feel humiliated. And that simulation, that vivid, emotional preview of failure, is enough to freeze you in place even before the market has done anything at all. And then there's the perfectionism trap. Many analytical traders believe that if they just wait for more confirmation, for more data, They will eventually be certain before entering. But certainty does not exist in trading. The market is a probabilistic environment. There is no setup so perfect that its outcome is guaranteed. Waiting for certainty is waiting for something that will never arrive. So what actually breaks through this fear? What gives you the ability to pull the trigger calmly, even knowing the trade might lose? The solution is to separate your identity from your trade outcomes completely. This starts with accepting, deeply accepting, not just understanding, that a losing trade does not mean you made a wrong decision. Those are two different things. A trade can follow perfect process and still lose due to random market movement. That is not failure. That is the nature of probability. Here is a practical tool. Before you enter any trade, write down 3 things in your journal. 1. What is my entry criteria, and are all of them met right now? 2. What is my maximum loss if this trade goes to stop loss? And am I comfortable losing that amount regardless of the outcome? 3. Is this a trade I would take again tomorrow under the same conditions? If all 3 answers are yes, you enter, without hesitation, without waiting for more confirmation. You have already confirmed that this is a sound decision. And once you have confirmed it's a sound decision, you execute it like a professional. Professionals do not wait for certainty. They execute when the conditions are right, and they accept the outcome without shame. There is another mental shift that transforms fearful traders. Start thinking in sample sizes, not individual trades. 1 trade is not a verdict on your skill. 100 trades is a verdict on your skill. A doctor does not judge their competence by whether 1 patient recovers. They judge it across thousands of cases over time. Start thinking the same way about your trading. Each trade is just 1 data point in a long series. Win or lose, it tells you almost nothing on its own. What matters is consistent, disciplined execution across many trades over time. The fear of being wrong on 1 trade shrinks dramatically when you understand it is just 1 data point in a large and ongoing experiment. Mary worked on this specifically. She started using a pre-trade journal protocol. 3 questions every time. She trained herself to enter within 30 seconds of her criteria being confirmed. Not 30 minutes, 30 seconds. The hesitation window was closed. And within 6 weeks, her account turned positive for the first time. Her analysis hadn't changed. Her courage had. What would happen to your trading results if you executed every valid setup without hesitation for the next 30 days? You might be surprised, because the analysis is already there. What's missing is the willingness to act on it. Your trade outcome is not your identity. Separate the two. Confirm your 3 pre-trade questions. Then execute within 30 seconds. No more waiting for certainty that will never come. The comfort zone trap. Why traders stop just before the breakthrough? Let me introduce you to James. James has been trading for 2 years. He is not a beginner. He understands the market reasonably well. He has developed a system that works. In fact, his system works well enough that in his demo account, he was consistently profitable for 3 months straight. When he moved to a live account, something changed. Not the strategy, not the market, not the pairs, just the environment. Real money, real losses, real stakes. And suddenly his trading became small, timid, inconsistent. He started taking only the most obvious, safest setups. The ones where the market had already moved significantly, meaning the good entry was already gone. He would wait for so much confirmation that by the time he entered, the trade had already played out most of its move. His risk to reward was deteriorating because he was entering too late out of fear. And on the rare occasions when a trade ran well, when it was up 60 or 70 pips and heading toward his 100 pip target, he closed early. He took 65 pips. He left 35 on the table. Why? Because 65 pips felt safe. It felt like enough. It felt certain. Whereas 100 pips felt greedy. It felt like pushing his luck. But why does real money change everything when the strategy is exactly the same? James spent 2 years wondering that. 2 years of slightly underperforming what his own strategy was capable of. Not dramatically losing, just never fully winning either. Forever stuck just below his own potential. This is the comfort zone trap, and it is one of the most subtle and persistent mental barriers in trading. Because from the outside, James looks like he's trading. He's taking trades. He's managing them. But on the inside, he has placed an invisible ceiling on his own results. A ceiling built entirely from his own mind. Why it happens? The comfort zone trap in trading has a specific psychological mechanism called homeostasis. Your brain is constantly trying to maintain equilibrium, stability, balance. It is designed by millions of years of evolution to resist drastic change, even positive change. When you start performing better than you have before, when trades run further, when your account grows faster than usual, your brain becomes uncomfortable, not from danger, from unfamiliarity. The new level of success doesn't feel like your normal. So your brain starts sending signals to pull back. Take the profit early, miss the next setup. Do something, anything, to bring you back to what feels familiar and safe. There is also a concept called the upper limit problem. Many traders unconsciously believe they are only allowed to succeed up to a certain level. That belief is usually invisible. It was never consciously decided. It was absorbed from environment, experience, upbringing. But it shows up as a pattern of behavior right at the edge of breakthrough. Just when things start going well, something sabotages it. A reckless trade. Exiting a winner early. Missing a setup they saw clearly. Have you ever had a great start to a week and then somehow given it all back by Friday? Have you ever had a profitable month and then performed poorly the very next month, almost erasing all progress? That is not bad luck. That is the upper limit mechanism at work. Your brain pulling you back to familiar territory. And the real danger of this pattern is that it is invisible while it's happening. You don't realize you're self-sabotaging in real time. You think you're making reasonable, cautious decisions. You think you're being sensible by taking profits early. You think you're being careful by skipping the next setup after a good run. But underneath those reasonable decisions is a hidden belief that this level of success is not really yours to keep. The fix begins with making the invisible visible. You need to find your ceiling and name it clearly. Here is how. Look at the last 6 months of your trading journal, if you have one. If not, start one this week. Look for the pattern. Is there a specific account balance level where things always seem to fall apart? Is there a win streak length after which you always give back profits? Is there a weekly profit amount that you seem to hit and then consistently lose the following week? Pause that number. That pattern is your ceiling. And naming it removes some of its power, because your brain can no longer operate the sabotage invisibly. You've turned on the lights in the room. You can see what's there. The second part of the fix is gradual expansion. You don't break through a comfort zone by forcing yourself to take massive risks overnight. That creates panic, which creates mistakes. You expand gradually. Take one trade per week where you honor your original target instead of exiting early. Just one. Don't change anything else. Just that one discipline. Let one trade run to its full target each week, regardless of the anxiety that builds while you wait. Over 4 weeks, you will have 4 complete trades at full target. Your brain will start building new evidence that staying in a winning trade does not always lead to reversal. That the outcome you planned for can actually arrive. That discipline is rewarded. Gradually, your ceiling rises, not from motivation, not from mindset talks, from actual repeated experience of the new higher level being safe. Your brain needs evidence. Give it evidence through small, consistent acts of expanding discipline. James identified his ceiling, $800 per month. Above that number, he would reliably lose the following week. Once he saw the pattern, he started tracking it. And instead of letting the momentum of a good week push him into overconfidence, he actually reduced his position size slightly in the second half of strong weeks. not to limit profit, but to keep his emotional state stable. And his equity curve became smoother, more consistent. The ceiling started rising, $900, then $100, then $400, because he was now managing his psychology, not just his trades. What is your ceiling right now? What level have you never consistently stayed above? Find that number, write it down, because identifying it is the first step to breaking through it. Find your invisible ceiling by reviewing your trading history, then expand it gradually. One full target trade per week, until your brain accepts the new normal, the invisible story. How your self-belief determines your results. Let me tell you about Michael. Michael started trading at 24. He was genuinely excited. He believed in himself. He thought, this is something he could be great at. He studied hard. He practiced. He put in real effort. Then came the first blow-up. He lost 60% of his small account in 3 weeks. He told himself, I just need more education. So he studied more, came back, lost again. I need a better strategy. Tried a new one. Lost again. Now he is 27, 3 years in. He has tried 6 different strategies. He has taken 3 different online courses. He has spent hundreds of hours on charts. And he still cannot find consistency. But here is what Michael doesn't realize. He has been carrying a story with him since that first blow-up. A story he tells himself quietly, in the background, without even knowing it. The story goes like this. Maybe trading is not for people like me. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Maybe this is just too hard. That story, invisible, unexamined, is shaping every decision he makes. He enters trades already half expecting them to lose. He manages his risk loosely because on some level he doesn't believe in the outcome. He switches strategies not because the old one failed, but because the new one gives him temporary relief from the feeling that he is simply not good enough. Have you ever told yourself a story about why trading might not be for you? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, other people get this, smart people figure this out, maybe I'm just not built for it? If yes, that story is a mental barrier, and it is costing you far more than bad trades ever did, because bad trades cost you money. Bad stories cost you your entire trading future. Why it happens? Here is the psychology. Your brain is a meaning-making machine. When something painful happens, like losing money, your brain immediately searches for an explanation. And the explanation it reaches for is not always accurate. Sometimes the brain explains the loss by attacking your identity. You failed because you are not capable, because you don't have what it takes. Once that explanation exists, once that story is in your head, it becomes a filter. You start interpreting everything through it. A winning trade becomes lucky. A losing trade becomes evidence that the story is true. Confirmatory bias kicks in. Your brain selectively notices all the losses and minimizes the wins because the losses confirm the story it has already decided to believe. There is also something called the identity behavior loop. You behave in ways that are consistent with how you see yourself. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with trading, you will unconsciously make decisions that maintain that identity, not because you want to fail, because your behavior is always trying to match your self-concept. The behavior follows the belief, automatically, below conscious awareness. And here is the cruel irony. The more time passes without consistent results, the more that negative story gets reinforced. 3 years in, Khalid has 3 years of evidence that he can't do this, even though that evidence is built entirely on a foundation of emotional, undisciplined trading, driven by the very same belief that's now being reinforced. So which came first, the bad results or the bad story? That's almost impossible to separate. But here's what matters. Whichever came first, the story is now the bigger problem. And the story can be changed. This is the deepest work in trading, and the most important. Changing the story you tell yourself about who you are as a trader. Start by making the story explicit. Write it down. Finish this sentence honestly. I believe that I cannot be a consistently profitable trader because Whatever comes after that, because that is your story. It might say, because I always panic, because I make emotional decisions, because I failed too many times, because successful traders think differently than I do. Write it. Look at it. Because the first step in changing a belief is stopping the pretense that it doesn't exist. Most traders are carrying these limiting stories, and because they never speak them out loud or write them down, they never challenge them. The story operates in shadow. Once it's in the light, you can examine it. Now, challenge every part of the story with actual evidence. Does "I always panic" mean every single trade? Or does it mean some trades, particularly after a loss streak? Is it absolute? Or is it a pattern with specific triggers? Usually, the story turns out to be far less absolute than it felt. Then, and this is the most powerful part, you begin building counter evidence. Deliberately, intentionally. You follow your rules on one trade. You write it down. You followed your rules. That is evidence against the story. You take 3 days off after a bad week instead of revenge trading. You write it down. You show discipline. More counter evidence. You are not trying to convince yourself with words that you are a great trader. You are building an actual record of disciplined behavior that gives your brain real, lived evidence of a different identity. Evidence it cannot dismiss as wishful thinking, because it happened. You did it. It's written in your journal. Over weeks, and this does take weeks, not days, the story begins to shift. Not because you read a motivational quote, but because your record of disciplined decisions is now more substantial than your record of emotional ones. Your identity catches up to your behavior, and your behavior becomes more consistent because it's now aligned with who you're becoming, not who you used to be. Michael did this work. He spent 2 weeks doing nothing but writing. His current story, his counter evidence, his daily acts of discipline, however small. He tracked every time he followed a rule, not the outcome, just the rule following. By the end of month 2, something had shifted quietly inside him. He stopped saying, "I hope this works." He started saying, "I followed my process." That one sentence change reflected a fundamentally different self-belief, and his account reflected it within 3 months. First consistent profit in 3 years. Not from a new strategy, from a new story. What story are you carrying into your trading sessions right now? Is it a story that supports you, or one that quietly holds you back? Because here is the truth that most people in this space won't tell you. Your strategy is not the barrier between you and winning. Your beliefs about yourself are the barrier. Fix the belief, and the strategy you already have becomes enough. I have seen traders with simple systems become consistently profitable, and I have seen traders with sophisticated, expensive strategies continue to lose. The difference was never the system. It was always the mind operating the system, always. Drop down the story you tell yourself about why you can't win. Then challenge it with real evidence of disciplined behavior. Your identity as a trader must change before your results will. Let me bring all 3 mental barriers together for you right now. Pause the first barrier, the fear of being wrong. It shows up as hesitation before valid setups, as early exits driven by anxiety rather than analysis. The fix. Separate your identity from your trade outcomes. Use the 3 pre-trade questions. Execute within 30 seconds of confirmation. Think in sample sizes, not individual trades. 1 loss tells you nothing. 100 disciplined trades tells you everything. The second barrier, the comfort zone trap. It shows up as an invisible ceiling on your results. Good weeks followed by bad ones. Winning trades close too early. The fix. Find your ceiling by reviewing your trading history. Expand deliberately. 1 full target trade per week. Give your brain new evidence that higher performance is safe. Let the ceiling rise slowly, but let it rise. The third barrier, the invisible story. The quiet belief that you might not be built for this, that other traders are different from you in some fundamental way, that your past failures predict your future. The fix. Write the story down, challenge it with evidence. Build a record of disciplined behavior, trade by trade, decision by decision, until the new identity has more evidence behind it than the old one. These three barriers, fear, ceiling, and story, are invisible. That is why they are so dangerous. You cannot fight something you cannot see. But now you can see them. You know their names. You know their mechanisms. You know their fixes. The market is not your enemy. Your strategy is not the problem. The charts are not betraying you. The barrier between you and consistent winning is internal, and internal barriers can be broken down, not overnight, but deliberately, consistently, one honest decision at a time. The work is not glamorous, but it is real, and it is the only work that actually produces lasting results in this market. You already have more than enough to win. The question is whether you are willing to do the inside work that allows your outside results to finally reflect it. If this video spoke to something real in you, subscribe right now, hit the bell, because every single week I post content that goes this deep into the psychology of trading. No hype, no income screenshots, no promises of fast money, just honest, practical education for traders who are serious about actually growing. And in the next video, I'm going to show you the exact daily routine of a disciplined trader. Morning to close, what they do, what they don't do, how they prepare their mind before the market opens, and how they decompress after it closes. That routine is the hidden infrastructure behind every consistently profitable trader. I'm going to break it down step by step. Don't miss it. Subscribe, and I will see you there.